You ever just sit in full Ren Fair garb in your apartment by yourself on like a Thursday morning to film the video? Hi, I'm Michelle and I'm a cosplayer. If you're new to my channel, welcome, or if you're a subscriber, welcome back. Today, I don't want to talk about cosplay. I want to talk about Renaissance fairs. So as someone who has been to my fair share of Renaissance fairs by now, I get a lot of people always asking me like, oh, which one should I go to? What do you recommend? And so that is this video. I am going to rank every single Renaissance fair in New England. Now, disclaimer, of course, these are all my personal opinions based on my own experience, and I do want you to keep in mind as you watch this that I am a 25-year-old degenerate who goes to these events to get drunk with my friends. So if you are like the parent of a small child watching this asking, Shell, would my small child enjoy this Renaissance fair? I don't know. I'll give you my best guess, but that is not my experience. I will be ranking these fairs on 6 categories. Number 1, bathrooms. It's important, okay? It really is. It can make or break your experience. Next category, affordability, and that includes both the cost of the ticket for attending one day and the general activity costs of games, food, things you want to do at the fair. Third category, food. Is there a lot of food? Are there different options? Are they affordable? Are they good? Are they delicious? Fourth category, entertainment. This can include actors who are keeping up the fair's storyline, or individual shows, acts, different activities you can do throughout the fair, different games, things like the joust, all that stuff. Fifth category is atmosphere. How pretty is the fair? Is it like a gorgeous place to hang out and take photos in? Are the vibes good? These are things that are important to me. And the last category I will be ranking these fairs on is accessibility. And by that, I do mean physical accessibility. Are you able to navigate the fair with a wheelchair or a mobility aid? I shall be giving each of these categories a score out of 5. So with 6 categories and 5 potential points available, there will be a total of 30 points per fair, and we will see how they all stack up against each other. First up, the Maine Renaissance Faire. This fair is held in Acton, Maine on the Acton Fairgrounds in the summer, and I have personally attended once. To start off, I'm giving them a 4 out of 5 for bathrooms because I think they have a pretty solid setup. The bathrooms are real bathrooms, and by that I mean there are flush toilets and sinks with water and soap, and they're like long multi-stall bathrooms, so there's multiple people that can be in there at once. I never encountered a line for the bathroom. It was never busy. It always felt fairly clean, so bathrooms, 4 out of 5. For affordability, I would rate Maine a 3 out of 5. For one adult one-day ticket, it is $25, which is actually kind of on the high range for Renaissance fairs in New England, but not insane. Parking is free, and I believe there are 2 parking lots, but when my group got there fairly shortly after opening, I believe both parking lots were already full. And we saw people just parking along the roadside in some very odd places. I actually ended up parking kind of in a ditch. It worked, it was just, it did not feel legal. Honestly, our spot in the ditch was lucky because when we left at the end of the day, we were driving past people's cars parked along the side of the road for at least 2 or 3 miles. In the category of food, I would rate Maine a 3 out of 5. One thing I didn't like was that a lot of the food options were food trucks, which is fine, but particularly at this Renaissance fair, all of those like generators and engines around the food trucks in kind of one corner made it really noisy. And personally, I didn't find the food options like super appealing. I didn't feel like there was a ton of variety. It just wasn't for me. One thing I also did not like about Maine was that they do have a tavern, a place where adults can go and get alcoholic beverages, but it was in one of the barns, and you couldn't take your beverage outside of the barn. So if you wanted to drink, you had to go in, purchase it, and drink it there, kind of like a beer garden, which is not something I've experienced at any other Renaissance fair. For entertainment, I would rate Maine a 3 out of 5. They had a pretty good joust, they had different aerialists and singers throughout the day. We honestly didn't see a lot of shows besides the joust, so I can't give a thorough review on that, but it seemed like they had a good variety available. On to atmosphere. This is where I am rating Maine a 1 out of 5. So the Acton Fairgrounds, where this fair takes place, is like a 4-H fairground. And you're surrounded by like these really big metal barns, and between the barns there's like a paved path through the center. And that's the fair. And they have, you know, tents and things and reenactors set up in further reaches of the field, so it's a little more green and a little more lush. But I just remember not really enjoying standing on the pavement next to a big metal barn. Like that didn't feel like a good Renaissance fair atmosphere to me, especially compared to some of the other fairs that I'm going to rank later in this video. However, just because it's not my cup of tea doesn't mean it might not work for you, because that paved path that I don't like standing on is really great for accessibility. So I am ranking Maine a 3 out of 5 on accessibility. If you stay in that main area of the fairgrounds with that paved pathway where all the food trucks and all the vendors are, you are going to have a very easy time getting around with a mobility aid. However, I am not giving Maine a higher rating than 3 because of that whole parking situation. Once you get into the fair, if you are using a physical aid, you'll be fine. You'll be good. However, getting to the fair from wherever you parked with your aid might be a little tricky. Overall, I rate the Maine Renaissance Faire a 17 out of 30. Next up, New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Renaissance Faire is located in Fremont. I have personally attended twice, and something cool about this fair is that they are actually a non-profit, so their proceeds go to various charities in New Hampshire. Right off the bat, I'm giving the New Hampshire Renaissance Faire an extra 2 bonus points to their total because they are a non-profit. I rate the bathrooms at New Hampshire a 2 out of 5. The situation is they are porta potties with a hand wash station. I've never really had any problems with them. They're very clean, they're well kept, but they are porta potties, and that is not nearly the best option on our list, so comparing them to other fairs, 2 out of 5. For affordability, I would rank New Hampshire a 4 out of 5. A ticket for one adult for one day is $20, and like I said, that's going towards charity. Parking is free, and they have a ton of parking right next to the fair. I also think the food options they have at New Hampshire are fairly affordable, and if you want to do a game or activity, it's going to be a few dollars each, nothing crazy. As for food, I would rate New Hampshire a 3 out of 5. They have some food options. There's not a huge variety. The prices are affordable, but the biggest issue I've had with the New Hampshire food options is that the lines get really, really long. This past year at the New Hampshire Renaissance Faire, I was there with my partner Dash and our friends Hanny and Grace, and Hanny and Grace got in line for food in like one of the main food areas. And Dash and I went off to go grab a drink from like this booth way on the outskirts of the fair. And by the time we had gone, found what we wanted, ordered, paid, received our food, sat down, consumed it, came back, probably a good like 30 minutes, we came back to find Hanny and Grace, and they were still in line. Another reason New Hampshire only gets a 3 out of 5 for food on me is not just the lines, it's the fact that they don't sell liquor. I assume it's just sort of a liquor license thing, that it would cost more and it would detract from their charity purpose, so I understand why they don't sell liquor. But like I said at the very beginning, I'm a degenerate. I'm going to the Renaissance Faire with the purpose of having a drink, so I'm sad that they don't sell liquor. For entertainment, I would rate the New Hampshire Fair a 2 out of 5. That's not to say that the entertainers they have at the fair are not wonderful performers who are very good at their craft. It's just that personally I feel like there isn't a ton of variety. One huge thing that the New Hampshire Fair is lacking is a joust or some kind of armored combat. For me personally, watching a joust is like a really big element of the fair. I always get really hyped and always make sure I go and see that. So the fact that New Hampshire doesn't have one is really sad for me. I just really want to see some guys in armor hit each other. What can I say? For atmosphere, I rate New Hampshire a 2 out of 5. And that is because New Hampshire is a field. The fair is a field with tents on it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a field with tents on it. They have some nice stages that they set up for the performers. They have some like cute little touches here or there, but for the most part, you feel like you're standing in a field because you're standing in a field. However, much like with Maine, the fact that New Hampshire doesn't have an amazing immersive atmosphere does make it better for accessibility. And I'm rating their accessibility a 3 out of 5. Because New Hampshire literally is a field, it's very flat, it's very walkable. If you have a mobility aid or you're pushing a stroller with your child, you're going to have a very easy time at New Hampshire. Overall, with my ratings, I would give New Hampshire a 16 out of 30. However, because they are a charity, I give them a +2 overall for a total of 18 out of 30. Moving on to the Connecticut Renaissance Faire. The Connecticut Renaissance Faire takes place in Lebanon every fall, from the very end of August to the very end of October. Are you sniffing my hair? Is he sniffing my hair? Starting strong, I am rating the bathrooms at the Connecticut Renaissance Faire a 4 out of 5. Connecticut Renaissance Faire has real bathrooms with flush toilets and stalls and sinks, and it's amazing. I will say the real bathrooms at the Connecticut Renaissance Faire are small. There's only like a few stalls per bathroom, so usually you do end up standing in quite a line if you want to use those restrooms. However, I'm still ranking them a 4 out of 5 because they have porta potties on the other side of the fairgrounds as a second option, and parking at the Connecticut Renaissance Faire is kind of crazy. You can kind of end up like way off in Timbuktu. We were parked way off in no man's land, and guess what was there? A porta potty! When I tell you, I have never been so happy to like see a porta potty in the middle of the woods. So for me, just the fact that there was like one more bathroom option out near my car before I left for the night was so nice. For affordability, I rate the Connecticut Renaissance Faire a 5 out of 5. And that is because one ticket for one adult for one day is $16. Kids 6 and under are completely free, and you can bring your dog. For $5, you can buy a ticket for your dog. There are a ton of food options, and the food is really reasonably priced. So again, going to that affordability, 5 out of 5, and the food I would say as its own category, 4 out of 5. Because there are so many different drinks, so many different snacks. There are affordable food options run by the fair. There are taverns run by the fair with like delicious beverages and cocktails and ales and meads and ciders. There's the potato lady. There's like mozzarella sticks. There's kettle corn. There's slush. There's, oh my god, I want to go. I would give the food a 5 out of 5, but I'm only giving it 4 because unfortunately the lines can get kind of nuts. Take advantage of that policy they have that you can go in and out and like bring lunch in your car and like have a picnic or something and then come back so you're not wasting time in line for food. As far as the entertainment, I would give Connecticut a 4 out of 5. There are so many great performers and shows at Connecticut throughout the day. My favorite personally is Joust, and Connecticut has this really great thing going for it where it has late night events a couple times per season. One of them is the Halloween Nights, and that event has the fire joust. It is absolutely as cool as it sounds. Apart from shows, there are a ton of different activities you can do at the Connecticut Renaissance Faire. There's things like, you know, axe throwing and knife throwing and archery and little games for kids where you like try to get like a beanbag onto a mushroom. Those games are like super cheap. It's like $3 to play, which is lovely. And I love doing it. I love like launching the little plush monkeys into like the barrels. It's designed for 5-year-olds, and I'm usually really bad at it because I'm worse at games than a 5-year-old apparently. But it's still really fun, and the people running them are always like really sweet, and they're just there to vibe with you. For atmosphere, Connecticut gets a 4 out of 5 from me. Connecticut is a beautiful fair, especially in the fall when it takes place and the colors are changing on the trees. It is just visually gorgeous. There are some permanent structures on the fairgrounds that really immerse you and make you feel like you're in a medieval town. There are also just really lovely decorations set up by the fair staff. I'm sorry, my cat's chasing toys around the house. Hi. You want me to throw your sprung? Oh, okay, we're playing. I'm sorry, duty calls. My cat plays fetch. Does yours not? Weird. I should film that. I digress. Connecticut is just a visually very pretty fair. However, I'm sensing a theme here. The prettier the fair is, the less accessible it tends to be. So I am rating Connecticut a 2 out of 5. The fair is on this huge hill, and half of it's kind of on the lower half and then half of it's on the upper. And there are some stairs built into the side of the hill, but a problem with New England in the fall is that it tends to rain a lot. And as soon as it starts raining and getting muddy, it's just like a slip and slide. The number of times I have seen people at Connecticut fall and like eat shit. Too many to count. So my advice, if you're going to Connecticut, is wear really good boots. If you are using a wheelchair or mobility aid at the Connecticut Renaissance Faire, good luck. There's some accessible gravel paths. There are things that you could get around on, but you are not going to be able to access the entirety of the fairgrounds. It's just not going to be possible for you. Overall, I rate the Connecticut Renaissance Faire a 23 out of 30. It is one of my personal favorite fairs to attend, and I think it is well worth the trip. Next, let's discuss the other Renaissance Fair in Connecticut, and that is Robin Hood's Medieval Fair. This fair takes place from the beginning of May to the end of June in Harwinton, Connecticut. And Robin Hood's Medieval Fair has the honor of being the first fair in this list where I am rating the bathrooms 5 out of 5. First of all, they're real bathrooms. It is a physical building with concrete floors and multiple stalls and sinks and flush toilets. And there's like 20 stalls in there. It is crazy. Not only are there like 20 stalls and like 4 sinks with mirrors and paper towels and soap, but the bathrooms are maintained throughout the entirety of the fair day by this very lovely woman who's the bathroom attendant, and she makes sure they stay clean. And she's very good at her job. She has a tip jar. If you go to Robin Hood's Medieval Fair, definitely tip the bathroom attendant because she is doing the Lord's work. Robin Hood also gets a 5 out of 5 from me for affordability. One adult for one day is only $15. Again, kids 6 and under are free. And once again, you can bring your dog for $5. So again, similar to the Connecticut Renaissance Faire, Robin Hood's is incredibly affordable. And the reason I'm going to keep saying they're so similar is because they are run by the same people. I wish I lived closer to these fairs. Food, 4 out of 5. There are so many different food options, and they are incredibly affordable. I got chicken strips for like $5. It hit the spot. It was so good. I miss those chicken strips. There are so many different bars and drinks available. Like I said, Robin Hood is run by the same people who run Connecticut, so a lot of the same food vendors show up. They have a lot of the same drinks available, and it's just it's so good. It's so delicious. The drinks at Robin Hood's are genuinely so good. If you are going, I highly recommend the Bee Sting, which is a mix of any kind of cider you want. They have like traditional apples, they have dry, they have sweet. I really like the blueberry cider, and then they will add honey mead to it, and it is delicious. Moving on to entertainment, I'm giving Robin Hood's another 5 out of 5. There's a bunch of stuff going on at Robin Hood's Fair all the time, and there's so much that I've been there for like years now. I've been going this was my 3rd year going, and I've gone multiple times per year. And I still feel like I have missed so much of the fair because there's just so much happening that you can't see it all in one day. They have really great singing acts, comedy acts, they have aerialists, they have a whole joust team, they have a whole team like the Knights of Gore, that's like this armored combat fighting troupe who literally have this little camp, and you can pay to fight one of them. It's like $3 to shoot arrows, $3 to throw daggers. The people at the booths are so helpful and will like really help you if you're like me and you can't aim or throw anything to save your life. Even I managed to get a knife to stick, and that's saying something. One extra thing that I think makes the entertainment at Robin Hood's really, really special is the troupe of actors they have. Because Robin Hood's Medieval Fair has an entire storyline for the event, and it is the storyline of Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham and Maid Marian and all of those characters. And they have a troupe of about a dozen actors, I would say, and the actors are paying their rent. I've been to several fairs where they have actors portraying a storyline throughout the day, but I have never seen it done so well and so effectively as Robin Hood's does it, because no matter what you do, you cannot miss the actors. There are some set showtimes and locations throughout the day if you want to really like follow along with the plot and see what all of the different characters get up to. But even if you don't do that, the actors are continuously walking around the fairgrounds interacting with all of the different guests and patrons. And they are so sweet and so funny. Friar Tuck stopped me and told me he was concerned for my soul, and then told me, when I asked why, that because the road was very rough and it could be hard on the feet. And like, that's just the kind of Renaissance fair like camp and charm that they're bringing to every single thing they're doing the entire day. And it's not just those one-on-one opportunities, like when they catch you walking by, that the actors are interacting with you. There are times when you yourself can get into the story. They have a whole archery tourney at the end of the day where the Sheriff of Nottingham is trying to capture Robin Hood, and they get people from the crowd to participate and shoot along with the characters, the actors. Yeah, I know, it's exciting! Something that just really charmed me the last time I attended this fair was that during that archery tourney, I was sitting off to the side watching my girlfriend Desh participate, and the actors for Maid Marian and Little John were near us, just kind of also watching, waiting for their turn to their cue in the scene. And the entire time, they were chatting with each other in character and making little quips and like talking to us about what was going on, when they didn't have to. Like, they were just so into it and so good and so funny. I love them. I love them a little, I think. So yeah, the actors at Robin Hood's, they're getting that bread. They're fabulous. They're so much fun. For atmosphere, I'm giving Robin Hood 4 out of 5, because like I said, the actors are like really selling it. They're adding a lot to that physical environment just by being there in character. There's a lot of really cool tents and really cool decor. There's a whole maypole they set up. I will say Robin Hood has that same kind of 4-H barn setup that Maine has, where it's the 4-H fairgrounds with the big metal barns and there's a gravel path right alongside them. You'd think that would make me think less of the fair, because I hated that part about Maine. I hated that there was just like a big barn in the middle of everything. But somehow Robin Hood really makes it work in a way that Maine didn't. Robin Hood almost makes it feel like the barns aren't there, because they add so much decor around and next to them that is so much more interesting to look at than the big metal barn, that I literally don't care that the big metal barn is there. I don't know, it works, it works. As for accessibility, I'm rating them a 4 out of 5 because, like I said, they do have that big gravel path, and that's going to take you around, I would say, at least 60% of the fairgrounds. If you want to get further out towards like the joust field and some of the games, it is a bit rougher terrain. It is just a field with kind of a hilly texture. But if you're staying in that main drag with the vendors and the food, you're going to have a pretty easy time doing something like pushing a wheelchair or pushing a stroller or using a cane. As well, parking is free and it's all really close by. So with all of those categories added together, I rate Robin Hood's Medieval Fair a 26 out of 30. Now that I was so excited about that last fair, we're going to talk about King Richard's. I do enjoy things about King Richard's Fair, and I would like to continue attending. So I am going to say the things that I don't like about the fair in the most constructive criticism way that I can. King Richard's Fair takes place in Carver, Massachusetts, that is on the south shore of Boston. It's pretty accessible for most people, which is why it's a popular fair in Massachusetts, and it takes place from the end of August through the end of October. First off, on the category of bathrooms, I rate King Richard's Faire a 1 out of 5. The bathroom setup at KRF are 2 areas of porta potties. One is by the joust field, one is kind of further off in the woods, and they're fine. They have a physical hand wash station along with the porta potties, but personally, in my experience, by the end of the season, the porta potties are gross and I don't want to use them. Actually, a lot of the times before we go to the fair, my friends and I will stop at the McDonald's down the street and use the bathrooms there first. As for affordability, I am rating KRF 0 out of 5. One adult for one day this year in 2024 is $50. Now, this is the part where some KRF representative is going to jump into my YouTube comments and correct me and say it's $46 for one adult for one day. And then I will respond back to them that yes, it's $46 with a $3.99 convenience fee. That is $50. To my understanding, the town of Carver has had some issues with King Richard's Faire in the past few years with overcrowding. To combat this, King Richard's Faire has implemented a policy where if you buy your ticket online in advance, you have to buy it for one specific day. Like I said with Connecticut earlier, autumn in New England is rain. So if there is rain on the day you're attending the fair, you can't get a refund, you can't switch the day. You are either going and getting soaked or you are losing $50. Next up, let's talk food. Overall, I would rate the food a 3 out of 5. I think there's a good variety of food. I think the food is good quality. However, the food is very expensive at KRF. And the worst part is that KRF has what they call a food ticket system. So once you get to KRF and you have parked and you have waited in line to get through the entrance, you then go into the fair and you wait in line at one of the food ticket booths. And there are roughly 4 or 5 of these scattered around the fairgrounds in different locations. The people inside the food ticket booths take your cash and give you tickets at a 1-to-1 ratio. So $1 is 1 ticket. And that is the only way you can get food at the fair. So once you've waited in line to get in, and then you've waited in line to purchase your food tickets, then you get to wait in line to purchase your actual food. And it's expensive. The food is expensive. There's nothing more I can say to that. It's expensive for fair food. Entertainment at KRF gets a 4 out of 5 from me. The shows at KRF are great. I think the people performing are giving you 100%. The reason I'm not giving the entertainment a 5 out of 5 is because as a person who's been going to KRF for a few years in a row now, I am starting to realize that it's just the same shows over and over again. In all of the shows like the Mud Show and the Washing Well Wenches and the Torture Show and like the Dogs, I absolutely think the performers are giving their 100%. But it's just the same thing every year. And for me personally, that is not something I've been enjoying lately. KRF, similar to Robin Hood's, does have a troupe of actors that kind of follow a plot line for the fair and for the event and walk around and interact with people. I use that term loosely. I have never actually had any of the actors at KRF interact with me or my friends or anyone that I know. To be honest with you, they just never seem to be like happy to be there, except the Queen. The actress who plays the Queen is always very lovely and very nice, and I always see her like interacting with really little children and like little girls, and she seems like a gem. Now, here is where KRF shines. For atmosphere, I am giving them a 5 out of 5. The thing KRF has going for it is that it is visually gorgeous. It takes place in this beautiful forested area and they decorate that place to the nines. There are beautiful permanent buildings that stay there all year and are renovated before each season so they're nice and fresh, and it truly is like stepping into this gorgeous medieval fantasy village. So if you are going to a Renaissance fair and your goal for the day is like, I want to take really pretty photos for Instagram, or I want to film really pretty aesthetic TikToks, KRF is the place to go. If that's what you're looking for, that is what that fair is for. However, in our running theme of this video apparently, the prettier the fair is, the harder it is in accessibility. Because for accessibility, I am rating KRF a 1 out of 5. Autumn in New England is the rainy season, and KRF floods so f***ing fast. The forest atmosphere is just gorgeous and beautiful, but it's a very low-lying area, and so when it starts pouring, as it does in autumn in New England, it's just a disaster. The flooding itself is not the only issue. It's the fact that there's just so many tree roots. If you have any kind of wheelchair or walker or rollator, or you're pushing a child in a stroller, I think you're gonna have a miserable time. I've just seen so many parents just absolutely struggling for their life pushing a stroller around KRF. I think I have some video footage from a vlog that I took years ago. Oh, I cannot even imagine trying to navigate that fair in a wheelchair. So overall, I am rating King Richard's Fair a 15 out of 10. Like I said, there are good things about this fair. It's just so visually pretty and stunning and immersive and beautiful to be at. And that is what I like about it. Moving on, let's talk about the Cape Cod Pirate Festival. Cape Cod Pirate Fest takes place in Yarmouth in June of each year. I believe this year was their 3rd year running. For bathrooms, I am giving them 2 out of 5. Like many of the other fairs, they have porta potties with a hand wash station. And the first year I went, they had the porta potties in the fairgrounds. This year that I went, they were like outside of the gate, so you had to kind of like walk away from the fair to get to them, which is fine, but I didn't like that as much as last year. For affordability, I am rating them a 3 out of 5. One adult ticket for one day is $20, which is about in line with the other festivals that we've rated so far in this video. However, one child age 3 to 12 is $15, which feels excessive to me. For food, I am giving them a 3 out of 5. There are like 2 or 3 food truck options, and that's kind of it. So if you don't find anything you like at either of those, you're kind of out of luck, but they have some decent selections. For entertainment, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 5. I do think the entertainment is where the Cape Cod Pirate Festival really shines. They have a really good variety of performers, from singing to aerialists to magicians to comedy acts, and all of the performers are really giving it their all. And they're really good at interacting with the younger people who are there, like the little itty bitty 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds running around. The performers love interacting with them. I've seen it firsthand, and so that is really cool to see. We also actually saw some cool demonstrations this year. There was a guy who was there with historical weaponry and was explaining all of the differences and nuances of it to us, and we got to hold these like antique weapons and pass them around amongst ourselves, so that was really fun as well. For atmosphere, I will unfortunately be giving Cape Cod Pirate Festival a 1 out of 5. And that's because it's a field. New Hampshire is a field. Cape Cod Pirate Festival is even more of a field. That's not to say it isn't a lovely time, but it's a field with tents. A lot of fairs will have like little things scattered around, like mushrooms, or like cute little photo spots with like a cute chair or a mirror or a fairy garden, like little corner somewhere. And Cape Cod, at least as far as I've seen, it doesn't really have that. It's just a field. It's a lovely field, but it is a field. For accessibility, I am giving Cape Cod a 3 out of 5. I do think it is a very accessible field. The location where it was this year was incredibly accessible in my opinion, because we were parked, there was a paved lot from the parking to the fair, and the fair had very even ground. It was very simple to navigate, and it's a smaller sized fair, so there's not a lot of ground to cover. The first year it was less accessible. The parking was a bit like rougher terrain, so I think if you were navigating from the car to the fair in a wheelchair, you would have struggled more in that venue, but they have changed venues like I said. So overall for me, Cape Cod rates a 16 out of 30. And that is not me saying that it's a bad festival or a bad event. I hope you can tell from the way I speak about it that I genuinely do like this event. And honestly, the best part of this event are the people, the performers and the staff and everyone attending are just really cool and just really awesome to like hang out and kind of like joke around with. So I don't want you to think that my rating of Cape Cod is like a black mark or like a negative, because I think if you have a large friend group and you are going and making plans with like a ton of people, this is a really great place to hang out, grab a cocktail, and see some cool shows. So I do really love the Cape Cod Pirate Festival. I would love to see it keep growing. Like I said, it's a starting fair. This was only their 3rd year, so I'm excited to see what more they have to come. Last but certainly not least, and thank the Lord because I've been filming for 3 hours now, let's talk Enchanted Orchard Renaissance Fair. This fair was actually new this year, 2024. It is held out in Phillipston, Mass for one weekend in May at the Red Apple Orchard. Starting right off, I rate their bathrooms a 4 out of 5. The venue for this fair just gives them such a huge leg up on so many other events. Because this fair is held at a literal working orchard, something a lot of people would go and visit in the fall to like pick their own apples and pumpkins and get cider donuts. It is just a really well set up and already accessible venue. So because it's a farm, there's already existing infrastructure, and that means they have real bathrooms. Yeah! There are 3 available bathrooms in the tavern barn area, and they are each a single room. So you go in and it's the toilet and the sink, and it's like a 1-person bathroom. At times there would be lines forming, but if you are a parent of a small child who needs help in the bathroom, or like you need to get in there and like adjust your corset or something, this is perfect for you. In addition to the real bathrooms, they also had porta potties located slightly further away into the fair, so you could use those if the line for the bathrooms was getting too long. For affordability, I would rate the fair a 3 out of 5. A ticket for one adult for one day is $20 in advance online and $25 at the gate. Additionally, a child age 7 to 13 is $15, which again, for a kid, that feels a little high. However, kids 6 and under are free. I'm not ranking this fair as like ultra affordable, mostly because I spent so much money at this fair. The reason I spent so much money at this fair is the food. The food I am rating 5 out of 5. There were so many different food options. There were burgers, there was barbecue, there were sandwiches, there was mac and cheese, there was soft pretzels, there was ice cream, there was cider donuts. There literally was a wood-fired pizza oven, like outdoors, that you could order pizza from. It was so cool. There were also so many beverage options. They had an entire tap room set up. So there were different beers you could choose from, craft ciders, there was wine, there was sangria. That's where all my money went. I got like 4 sangrias. But I don't regret it. It was absolutely worth it. Everything was delicious, and it was just so cool to have so many different things available.
Yeah. Come sit with me. Come sit with me. You want to be in the video?
Okay, I'm just gonna keep chatting. So Enchanted Orchard Renaissance Faire. The wood-fired pizza oven especially, gorgeous. We got that at the end of the day after I'd had 4 sangrias, and it was just so good. It was delicious, it hit the spot. Totally recommend. As far as entertainment goes, I would rate the Enchanted Orchard Renaissance Faire a 4 out of 5. Our group personally did not see like a ton of shows because we were mostly in the tavern, but I realized looking at the schedule afterwards, there was like so much stuff we missed. There were so many musical acts, fire whips, combat, like comedy. There was actually a drag queen as well who was really, really good. She was doing like a Shakespeare show. As for the atmosphere, I would rate the Enchanted Orchard Renaissance Faire a solid 5 out of 5. Like I said, the venue is really pulling a lot of weight at this fair. It is just such a beautiful place to have a fair. And honestly, I feel like so many other events and festivals should like copy this model and like go to a farm or an orchard. It's genius. There's already a ton of existing infrastructure there that is there year-round, from the wood-fired pizza oven to the tap room barn with the bathrooms, and here's the best thing. There is an entire pen of goats. I don't know about y'all, but I am delighted when I see a goat. And there was just this entire like little barnyard of little goat friends that you could watch run around. And then some people brought out the goats on leashes and you could pet the goats. There were also chickens just free roaming everywhere. It was so much fun to watch them all chase each other around. And there was another whole pen of bunnies, and they had like this whole little like rabbit warren where they were all like snuggled up with each other, and it was so cute. And oh my god, I need to go back to Red Apple Farm, clearly. And it's not just the atmosphere of the existing like farm elements that add to the fair, because there were so many beautiful touches added everywhere else. Literally, there was an entire fairy grove that they made where one of the stages were, and there were these beautiful cushions you could sit on, and there were like banners of flowers hanging around, and just beautiful things in the trees, little like artwork pieces here and there, like little photo spots. It was just a really cool place. Lastly, for accessibility, I am rating the Enchanted Orchard Renaissance Faire a 3 out of 5. For the most part, I would say it's pretty accessible. It's pretty much like dirt and gravel pathways around those main barn areas with the tavern, the bathrooms, the goats, the pizza, the donuts, the ice cream. As you get further back into the fair, where some of like the performance areas are and some of the vendors are, it's rough. I think my group probably tripped a handful of times. We definitely like turned an ankle in a hole that randomly appeared. So pushing a stroller or something similar would not be easy back there, but I do think you kind of stay in the main area where the buildings are and still experience a lot of the fair and still have a very good time. So overall, I am giving Enchanted Orchard Renaissance Faire a 24 out of 30. I am so excited to return to this fair next year and bring more of my friends. It genuinely was such a like beautiful surprise and a treat to go to this new fair and see how well they've already done in their very first year. Like, this is probably going to become one of my favorites, and I really hope they keep going. So that is my official ranking of every Renaissance Fair in New England. Like I said many times, this video is all based on my personal experiences, so I would love to hear if you think differently. Maybe there's something I have missed at the fairs that you think makes them really cool and I've got to check it out next time. So if that's the case, absolutely let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up down below, and if you want to see more content from my channel, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye!